stay in my fit. What I'm gonna do if I really want to, but you know, baby, break my mind into. But you have the key, so open my heart, please, my heart, please. Tell me that I'm beautiful, till counterparts. But our life's so hot. I'm all what you got. I'm all what you got.
Okay, I'm so excited to get this conversation going. Let's roll. As we are backing up. I never get this right. Turns out I never get this right. Okay, anyway, as we start moving in this very saturated city during Climate Week,
Climate Week,
yep. All kinds of transportation. We see taxis, we see Ubers, but we are in this beautiful electric car, and this is ultimately the future of transportation, right? We're electrifying transportation. So that's kind of the big picture, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty and the roles that we play in this bigger conversation. Tell me where you fall in the climate ecosystem. Where do you see yourself fall? And maybe we start with what inspired you to join in the first place?
That's a really good question, because I didn't take a traditional path into climate activism or the climate space. I am not a marine biologist. I don't have a degree in ecology. I'm not an activist, but what I am is a concerned mom. And when my son was 3 years old, he started to have breathing issues. And so I took him to the doctor, and I expected her to ask me about my family's history, health history, and instead she asked where I lived. And I told her, well, I live in an apartment. And she said, well, are there grass? Is there grass? Are there trees around? And I said, no, actually, I live in the middle of 2 highways. And she said, your son has asthma, and it's probably environmentally induced.
Wow.
And this kind of hit me to my core, because at the time I didn't just have the money to get up and move and relocate, but a basic human right
to clean air.
Yes. And as a mom, you want to do everything in your power to protect your kid. And what do you do when your kid can't breathe? You know, if they have a cold, you give them medicine. What do you give your kid when they can't breathe?
Right.
And so I said to myself, there has to be, well, I have a role to play in ensuring that my kid at least has clean air and clean water to drink. And so that kind of started me on my journey.
Wow. So what has your journey been? I met you most recently as the executive director of Greenpeace USA. And so I know you spent quite some time at Greenpeace. Talk to me a little bit about where you, after you had this experience with your son, where you thought you could make the most impact.
So when I started to do research about asthma, I learned that Black and brown children were disproportionately impacted. And then when I looked at the climate space or the movement at large, I didn't really see faces that reflected my identity. And I thought to myself, there has to be a way that the folks that are impacted are actually at the table and helping to drive the solutions and helping to advance changes and to ensure that we are on a pathway to clean energy. And so my background is actually in human resources. And so...
But that's cool, because that goes to show, for those tuning in, that it doesn't matter where you started, you can still make serious impact in the climate world. So that's cool that HR, it's not like the most expected trajectory, but it works. It worked.
Yeah, and I tell everybody, you know, you live on this planet, so you are an environmentalist.
Exactly.
So every gift that you have, you can put it towards achieving better. So I applied for a job at Greenpeace, and at that time, they were also on a journey to ensure that the organization more broadly reflected the movement.
Sure.
And so I began there in directing their talent and also leadership development, also changing the policies and many of the processes in the organization to lead to more equitable outcomes. And so when I started the organization, we were 13% Black, Indigenous people of color. And over a period of 11 years, we are now 57%.
That's amazing. That's
Black,
greater than the
Indigenous.
majority.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was through a lot of hard work and effort, but necessary work. And the systems that we had to put in place to achieve the change also led to greater systems or development of systems in our programmatic work, so that we were able to actually see the change in how we resourced our campaigns and
Right.
how we developed our strategies and how we drove solutions in communities.
Talk to me a little bit about the role of activism. Where is its place in the climate movement?
So Greenpeace, I often say, are the OGs of
Yeah.
activism. And in this work, everybody has a role. And one thing when I started the organization, you know, my parents would tease me, are you going to be hanging
Right,
off of
are
the
you gonna
bridges
go get
now?
arrested?
Are you going to go get arrested?
We know that hasn't worked out for people of color in the past.
No, it hasn't. But, well, in some ways, those sacrifices have helped to drive the social changes that we've needed in this country. And so I do believe that it does have a place. And it's after we've done the work to actually have those conversations with stakeholders, after we've done the work to try to shift policies and shift laws in a trajectory towards justice, there are times when sometimes the talking doesn't work. And sometimes you do have to show up and you have to speak truth to power and actually put your foot down. But I believe that there's a process in getting to that. I don't believe that's like actually where you start from. I believe that you actually start in community and having those conversations. And then in activism, I think everybody has a role to play. Not everybody is going to go get arrested.
Right.
I often
Right.
tell my staff, you won't see me down.
Right.
Although I have.
Look out for yourself,
Yes.
sis.
But I will be the one downtown with your bail money.
Right.
I will be the one. We need organizers. Who's watching the kids while we're out protesting?
Exactly.
Who's providing the resources? Who's thinking about the strategy and the next steps? So there are so many roles to play in activism and advocacy that help to drive change.
So you have some really big names affiliated with Greenpeace, have had, Jane Fonda being one of them. And it gets attention when activists are also influencers and celebrities. And yet we still see there's a hesitation of some of these entertainers, influencers, what have you, to join the effort at any level. Mm-hmm. What have some of the challenges been in kind of bringing in those voices that have those platforms or those fan bases? You got a couple great ones, right? I'd love for you to share who they are. But then what has been like the struggle with kind of bringing in the creatives into this? I would love to see some more athletes. I'd love to see some more hip hop artists. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think especially in climate, I think people don't always recognize the impact that it has on them personally. And I think, like for me, like I told you my story with my son, and I think that sometimes people don't always make the connection. And really a lot of the extreme weather events that we're experiencing, a lot of the health impacts, Cancer Alley. We shouldn't have a community in this country by the name of Cancer Alley. But sometimes when those things don't directly impact you, it's kind of an obscure thing, or it's kind of like, oh yes, I hear about climate change, but really what is my role in that? And I think sometimes celebrities, just like us, get caught up in that. And so I do think the movement has to do a much better job at communicating what the actual issues are and the impacts, and helping people to understand their role in creating the change so that we can create a more sustainable future for us all.
Right.
And I think it's more so, yeah, just starting to have the conversations with folks. And I don't think that we, in the climate space, has probably, it's scientific.
Yeah.
It's a bit wonky.
Yeah.
And so we haven't always done the best job of communicating.
So we know that those people that are trusted are the ones that will succeed in communicating. So our mutual colleague and friend, Rev Yearwood, has said how the historically disenfranchised, those who are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, and in the US, those are the Black and brown communities, they're the ones that really need to be reached through voices that are relevant to them, that they trust, because they also have been taken advantage of for so long that why should they trust scientists or government or policymakers, and especially with the wonkiness. So these are the communities that can really benefit from information coming to them from like a church leader or their favorite, musician.
Absolutely.
And so now Rev is launching Climate Revival, has launched Climate Revival, and we see these kinds of efforts, Hip Hop Caucus, that are really making that effort to communicate through those trusted spokespeople. So I know you see value in that for sure. I would love your thoughts on that.
Definitely. And Rev Yearwood is a great friend and awesome communicator, and is one that can help. He can break down an issue in a way that makes it very accessible for you and makes it can help to like spark a light bulb in your head, and you're like, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, this is why this community might be sick, or this is why we need to push for this legislation in our community. Why the IRA, for instance, is so important in inner city communities. We don't always get it. And for me, something that happened even in my community in Ward 8 in Washington, D.C., I was walking through the neighborhood one day, and I see a bunch of work going on on the Anacostia water bank, which has been traditionally very hard to clean up for years. And I asked the workers, I said, what's going on? And they said, oh, we're actually doing a water treatment program here that was funded by the IRA that will actually help with sediment and help to control the flooding in the area, and also brings jobs to the community. And this is something that we have to get this information out in the public. We have to let our community members know that this is going to help our community. It'll help decrease flooding, but it'll also bring jobs. It'll bring resources into the community.
Right.
And so, again, it's up to us to try and communicate the link between something that seems tangential, like climate change. Oh, we think it's like years away, but no, it's actually happening now. And that we actually have solutions also right now that will help to heal our environment.
Communities that have been historically suffering, I hear what you're saying, because now the beauty of all of this, if we do it right, is that they can actually be part of not just part of the solution, but also reap the rewards of the solution.
Yes.
And so we see
yes.
equitable distribution
yes.
of the successes and the economic opportunities
yes.
that come out of a true dissemination
yes.
of the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA.
Yeah.
And so, this reminds me again of what Rev said. I don't think Rev realized he was going to be shouted out so much between us, but this is hope his ears are burning. But basically, Cancer Alley could become Opportunity Alley. Let's rebrand
wow.
it.
Yeah.
And he said it,
yeah.
and it was really powerful. I mean, most things he says is powerful, but that's the potential here, right? Not just in that particular part of the United States, but across the board, we have an opportunity to usher in a future that is more breathable, where a future Ebony Martin will not have to worry about, let's say, your grandchild, in this case, getting asthma because of where they're geographically located.
I love the way you reframe that. Opportunity Alley.
I can't take credit for it.
Opportunity, but so many of the solutions, they are opportunities, and we don't approach them that way, or we don't always think of them that way. And it's something that we can live every day, because every day we have an opportunity to make a choice, to do something, to help to ensure that the world, like you said, is more sustainable for our children and our grandchildren and future generations.
And equitable. We have not had an equitable system, so I am excited to actually try and build something that is fair to every inhabitant. Imagine what that would be like. That's something we could get excited about creating, because despite all of this experiment that is democracy and all the efforts, maybe quote unquote there, that have been made for it to be equal rights for all, there's an opportunity now to actually see that future through, to create some equal rights for all. So, well, you've been doing this your whole life, and as a HR turned activist by nature, right? Encouraging others to be activists in their own way, or having an appropriate role to contribute to all of these efforts. I have no doubt that that's what you're going to continue doing. You're always going to be fighting. But we're not done with you yet, because I learned something about you, and we've been friends for some time, and it always amazes me when you learn something new about somebody that you think you know. You're a singer.
Well,
and we are in the car, and we are pretending this is all a play on, what's it called? Car karaoke?
it's car karaoke.
Carpool
but there's
karaoke.
usually a song playing when you do it. But yes, I have my undergrad in music, and I thought that I wanted to be a singer.
Nice.
And I actually used to sing in the resident choir for the Kimmel Center, the Philharmonic Orchestra in Philadelphia. And I haven't sang in many years, but it is a passion. Music has always been my passion. And that also, like you said, I'm really passionate too about marrying the arts with activism, because I think that the arts, they're a reflection of what people are experiencing in the moment. And the arts also help to spur change in many different ways, like even in the civil rights movement, just how powerful music was in that moment. And so I'm also hopeful that the climate movement at large can start to also embrace the arts in a way that will spur more activism, more engagement, more collaboration.
There is definitely a correlation between creativity and activism, because these activists are creative. I will say that. Some of the things that we are seeing happen. But how do you feel about when activists destroy art?
Yeah, I'm not on the destruction tip, because that's what climate change is. And so I don't think that you fight fire with fire. And when I think of art, I think of healing. I think of something whole. And so I would encourage activists. I know they really want to get a point across, but destroying someone else's experience and creativity, I don't think that's akin to me to destroying the earth.
Yeah, I hear that. I struggle with that, because the role of activism, we have another mutual friend and colleague, David Fenton, who wrote the Activist Handbook, and talks about how the actual evidence that underlies the effectiveness of activism. So it has a role to play, and I get it, because the planet is burning up. We are in the midst of hurricanes, wildfires, flooding, sea level rise, you name it. All of the climate change impacts that scientists have been warning us about for decades are coming into reality now. So the urgency is real. So I understand where activists are coming from that are taking kind of more extreme methods and to get people's attention and to move policy, hopefully. But ultimately, we can make choices about the methods that we use.
Definitely.
And I'm with you on that, because art is what you said, a reflection of human creativity, human progress, and to destroy that is potentially hurting the whole, like kind of shooting ourselves in the foot of what we're trying to accomplish,
I think so.
right?
I think
with
so.
climate.
Yeah, I think so.
So you're like a pragmatic activist.
That's what they call me.
Is it?
The safe one. That's what they say. Yeah, I'm the safe one.
I can't stay in my fit. What I'm gonna do if I really want to, but you know, baby.